Okay.
I think Dr. Dar has not joined us yet, it seems.
Yes, ma'am. That's not joined.
अरे यार वो थोड़ा echo हो रहा है.
Rupa ma'am,
Good morning, ma'am.
Good morning.
नहीं नहीं. Sheetal, am I audible clearly?
yes, ma'am, you are.
No. I hope there is no echo.
No, not now. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning, sir.
Your video on.
So if chief guest has joined, we should start.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning. Good morning, everybody. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Okay. Shall we start, sir?
Yeah, please go ahead.
Research consists in seeing what everyone else has seen, but thinking what no one else has thought. Namaskar. Good morning, everyone present here. Research and innovations are the backbone for the growth of any nation, and conferences like SAHITYAVITHI set a perfect platform to discuss the latest research and provide a direction to academicians and educationists to ponder upon. Honorable Vice Chancellor Shri Vaishno Vidyapith Vishwavidyalaya, Dr. Upinder Dhar, our esteemed chief guest of the day, Professor Niladri R. Chatterjee, Dean FDSR and Coordinator CSHA, Dr. Santosh Dhar, Head Department of Humanities, Dr. Rupa Shinte, all the dignitaries, delegates, HOIs, HODs, faculty members, and dear students. I, Dr. Sheetal Jain, take this opportunity to extend a warm welcome to all to the inaugural session of the third National Conference SAHITYAVITHI on Pedagogical Innovations in English Language and Literature, Challenges and Opportunities. Light symbolizes knowledge and divinity. It not only dispels darkness, but also illuminates our soul. Before beginning the event, let us take the blessings of Goddess Saraswati, the goddess of knowledge. I request our technical team to play Saraswati Vandana.
असतो मा सद्गमया तमसो मा ज्योतिर्गमया मृत्युर्मामृतं गमया ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्ति.
Thank you, sir. I request conference.
कुन्देन्दु तुषारहार धवला या शुभ्रवस्त्रावृता या वीणावरदण्डमण्डितकरा या श्वेतपद्मासना या ब्रह्माच्युतशङ्करप्रभृतिभिः देवैः सदा वन्दिता सा मां पातु सरस्वती भगवती निःशेषजाड्यापहा.
Thank you so much, sir. I request conference advisor SAHITYAVITHI and coordinator Sisha, Dr. Santosh Dhar to throw light upon the event SAHITYAVITHI.
Honorable Vice Chancellor of Sri Vaishnav Vidyapith Vishwavidyalaya, Dr. Upender Dhar, Chief Guest on the occasion and keynote speaker, Dr. Niladhari Chatterjee, Professor, Department of English, University of Kalyani, West Bengal, Coordinator SAHITYAVITHI, Pamela Nima, HOD Humanities, Dr. Rupa Shinde, faculty colleagues from the Department of Humanities and Swisha, HOIs and HODs of constituent institutes of the university, paper presenters, session chair, and other participants, a warm welcome to SAHITYAVITHI 2021, the conference on the theme, Pedagogical Innovations in English Language and Literature, Challenges and Opportunities. Innovative teaching methodologies have to be such that they can create a learning atmosphere where the creative and intellectual abilities of students permit them to meet the goals of transformation and development. In traditional approach, it was believed that students learn when knowledge is transferred to students. But now there is a paradigm shift in thinking. Now it is believed that students learn effectively by practical presentation, which can be reinforced by the use of innovative teaching methodologies. Innovative teaching methodologies for English teaching need to brush aside the fears of English language learners. Students from rural areas learn English as a second language, and that too at later age and higher classes. As a result, they are not confident about their second language, and they struggle throughout their courses and develop an aversion or dislike for the language. Only well chalked out strategies, methodologies, and content for teaching English language can enhance the students' potential for language acquisition skills. Implementing new teaching innovations bring new challenges, as many a times students experience problems with assessment. The general argument being that the faculty have not adequately explained what is required of them. An innovative teaching and learning method cannot quick fix the existing problem of teaching and learning. It cannot replace the traditional teaching methodology, but definitely it can complement it. No doubt, innovative teaching methods can add on and facilitate learners to deal confidently at the workplace. Teachers need to think upon how traditional approach can be blended with new methodologies. The use of dramatization method, illustration method, problem-based learning method undoubtedly support traditional methodologies and can augment accustomed methods of teaching. The focus has to shift from how students learn and how keep them engaged, and faculty need to use new teaching methodologies to create stimulating learning environments while being cognizant of the culture and other specific needs of the students. This conference has been organized with the objective of addressing some of the issues and ponder upon the possible solutions. We are sure we will be able to achieve the very objective with which this conference was conceptualized. With these words, I wish you all great learning from this conference. Thank you so much. Over to Sheetal.
Thank you so much, ma'am. May I request now Honorable Vice Chancellor Dr. Upinder Dhar to deliver welcome address.
Good morning to all of you. At the outset, I would like to extend a very warm welcome to our guest, Professor Niladri R. Chatterjee, on this occasion. I would also like to congratulate the organizers for choosing a very appropriate theme for SAHITYAVITHI 2021. All of us know that it is important to focus on what we teach, but at the same time, it is equally important to focus on how we teach. That is pedagogy, teaching methodology plays a very significant role. So far as the characteristics of language are concerned, we know that language is learned. Thus, it is an acquired behavior. Language is a system that is very helpful and an instrument or tool for communication, and is based on cultural experiences. We cannot separate a language from culture. Language is made of habits and is unique. It offers the freedom to explore, fosters creativity, enables learning, develops thinking, and promotes participation. See, I still remember what my professor used to teach in the class during my graduation way back in 1973. His voice still is audible, is audible to me at the back of my mind. The way he used to recite the poetry in the class, the way he used to pronounce each word, that mattered. Had he not used that methodology, the methodology that he used for recitation, perhaps I would not have remembered. Now it is 48 years later. Therefore, we need to understand the importance of language. Language is an essential element in the culture of any society. We live in a community, and our living in a community is made meaningful mainly by the language. In the words of Leonard Bloomfield, community is formed in the activity of language, and speech utterances give us the most direct insight into its working. Language is a tool to understand and appreciate the culture of a human society, and we must learn its language to understand it clearly. When Britishers started ruling India, it is not clear whether they tried to realize the importance of Indian languages as media to learn and appreciate the Indian culture, but they were very categorical that Indians learn their language for other purpose. They had to spend a lot of money on clerical work, as they had to recruit clerks from Britain. So Lord Macaulay thought to teach English to Indians mainly to produce cheap clerks. This is a kind of outsourcing that Britishers applied even more than 300 years ago. Now English has become a part and parcel of people of India. It has become an indispensable language. India is a developing country. No progressive country can afford to lose the utility of this world language. This language has become a world language today. English played a very major role in our fight for freedom. As India is a land of many languages, the unification of freedom fighters for national cause seemed to be remote. But again, English only played the role of unifying the freedom fighters from Kashmir to Kanyakumari. When we weigh the benefits between what English got from India and what India got from English, it is strongly felt that India has benefited more from English. English is a language of the court in India, not only in the Supreme Court, but also in the high courts and district courts. The only, or you can say mostly, the language which has been found to be suitable is English. In India, English is used for international trade and industry. Most of the international business activities are done through American dollar, as we know. This itself forces Indian traders to use English for their business communication. English plays a major role in our educational system. It is taught as a compulsory subject in many states in the country. Many students find it difficult to get pass marks in English. Still, English is persistently made a compulsory subject or course in India. It is the medium of instruction in technical, medical, and law colleges. Most of the postgraduate courses are offered in English only. Though there have been many voices to give importance to promote regional languages in place of English, the importance of English in India is not getting reduced. Considering the importance of English, many regional institutes of English have been established to train English teachers. English is the most important language in the country's national life and educational system. The contribution of English in the growth of knowledge in medicine, science, and technology is so significant that we are able to live up to the international standards in these fields. We are able to know what is happening elsewhere in various disciplines, various fields, and what is connecting us to other worlds or other countries is this language. In fact, it has been calculated that there is 60% of research publication, 60% of research are published in English. So we have access to those 60% publications, but then at the same time, remaining publications are immediately translated. That is 40% publications are also translated in English so that most of the people have access to what is happening elsewhere. Most of the people have access to what has been discovered, what has been explored in different fields through research. Similarly, we take pride in having sons of the soil having done great job in other countries, in US and other countries. Say Harvard, we are having large number of professors from India. In many other universities, there are large number of professors in India. Had English not been taught, they would not have been, perhaps they would not have been there. Therefore, this displays the importance of language. So we need not to have anything against a language. We should not have anything against a language. Language connects us to each other, irrespective of the national boundaries. Therefore, the importance of the language needs to be understood and language needs to be given appropriate place. Now, coming back to the methodology is important, then only effectiveness can be seen. We can effectively teach a language if pedagogy is appropriate, if pedagogy is innovated from time to time. The way language was taught 100 years back was slightly different. The way language is being taught today is different. Today, even we have other means, see, thanks to the information technology, thanks to the computerization of the education. We are having many softwares available today which can facilitate us in teaching this language. Therefore, we need to move with the times and keep on innovating the methodology, keep on innovating the pedagogy so that effectiveness happens. Because ultimately, we need not to teach just for teaching's sake. We need to teach so that the learner understands, so that learner develops the skills to communicate effectively. Learner develops the skills to think in this language, the language that is being used. If not able to think, at least he or she should be able to translate it into words appropriately, correctly, so that he gets connected to the whole universe, to the whole world. As I said, most of the people speak this language. Therefore, that's why I said, that's why I congratulated the organizers in the beginning for choosing a very appropriate topic for this SAHITYAVITHI 2021. So methodology, we need to understand more about methodologies. We need to understand more about what innovations have been made in the past few decades for teaching this language, for teaching English, and what innovations are possible. We need to continuously work on it. Therefore, for that, basic understanding is important, and for inspiring all our teachers in this direction, Professor Niladri R. Chatterjee is the best scholar. And I'm sure that by the time SAHITYAVITHI 2021 gets over today, we will be able to learn many nuances of this language, particularly in terms of the pedagogy. So with these words, I wish all the best to all the delegates and those who are participating in SAHITY 2021. And once again, I extend a very warm welcome to our guest speaker, Professor Niladri R. Chatterjee. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir. Your words set a perfect platform to discuss the theme of that conference. Well, writing a perfect research paper is no less than a military operation, as it demands discipline, foresight, research, strategy, and if done right, ends in total victory. Now, I would like to request our chief guest, Dr. Niladri R. Chatterjee, to release the souvenir of the conference, Sankshet 2021. Thank you, sir. Today, we are joined by a well-known professor, activist, academician, novelist, Dr. Niladri R. Chatterjee. He is professor at Department of English, University of Kalyani, West Bengal. His doctoral work is on the novelist Christopher Isherwood. He is also a recipient of Fulbright Scholarship and the British Council Charles Wallace Fellowship. He has widely published and co-edited The Muffled Heart Stories of Disempowered Male and has also contributed to the American Isherwood and so on. His publications have appeared in the reputed journals like American Notes and Queries, Intersections, and has recently started contributing to The Wire. He has reviewed for Gay and Lesbian Review Worldwide. He has been teaching a course in gender studies at his university since 2009. He is also the author of a novel called The Scholar. We are honored with the presence of you, sir. And now I request you to enrich us with the words of wisdom. Thank you so much, sir. Please, over to you.
Thank you so much. It is indeed a great honor to be here as the chief guest at this national conference. I thank the Honorable Vice Chancellor of Sri Vaishnav Vidyapith Vishwavidyalaya, Indore. I thank all the faculty. I thank all the paper presenters, the students, the teachers, everybody who has made time to be here today. I really don't know how the university came to know about me, but I'm very grateful that I have been asked to speak here today. I have never been to Indore, but I am in Indore in some sense, thanks to the magic of technology. I can sit here in my room and simultaneously be in Indore. So technology is indeed magical, and this is indeed an example of the magic that technology can create. When I was asked to speak as the chief guest, obviously I had some thoughts that were beginning to form in my head. And certainly, as far as innovation is concerned, well, we have been forced to innovate, haven't we, since March last year. Situation has changed so radically that we are not meeting our students face to face anymore. We are not seeing them in person. We are not getting to hear their giggles in the classroom, especially in my classrooms, they giggle a lot. And I'm missing their giggles, I'm missing their naughtiness, I'm missing the silly excuses they used to give for not turning up in class. I'm missing all of that. There is something about the academic environment which used to be the reason, and which is the reason why we teachers are alive. We thrive on that atmosphere. We thrive on that sense of energy. So we are being forced to innovate. And it is something that many of us are adapting to very well. But I also have great deal of sympathy for those who are struggling with it, because it is a struggle. It is something that we have never done before. We thought that this is something that we would never have to do. And so therefore, sort of platforms such as Google Classroom, messaging service, social networking sites, something that we thought was only for entertainment and for the passing of time has suddenly taken on a kind of serious urgency. Now we understand that this is something that can be harnessed for teaching, for educational purposes. This is something that we actually did not realize. Well, having said that, I had, with a slight blush, I may say that I had begun kind of in that journey some time ago, because in 2010, I started a Facebook page called New Gender Studies. Now, this Facebook page has since grown exponentially. I think there are about 15,000 members there right now. And every time I open up my Facebook, I'm adding a few more. I began New Gender Studies as a Facebook group because I felt that when I began teaching a course in gender studies at my university in 2009, I felt that there was a lot of interest among students. They had a lot of questions, but because we are raised in a patriarchal society, where we are not encouraged to talk openly about gender, about sexuality, a lot of students were actually finding it very difficult to put those questions to me face to face. They were overcome by shyness. But I felt that if I can make the platform of Facebook available to them, then I think the students are going to be perhaps a little bit less inhibited when they put their questions to me. And it was true. The students who would normally not be very participatory in class turned out to be very participatory on Facebook. Remember, this is 2010, right? So therefore, 11 years ago, Facebook wasn't quite then what it has become now. But I felt that a lot of students began to participate quite actively on Facebook. So in 2010, I felt that yes, technology that is usually used for entertainment can also be used for educational purposes. 11 years later, now we are so completely dependent on technology that we can simply not avoid it. Which brings me to the subject of English language teaching. Now, at my university, we do have somebody who does the ELT section, the ELT component. I'm not the one. I usually teach gender studies, I teach European literature, and I teach some other texts, but not ELT. However, I also have to invariably, like most English teachers, whether we teach ELT or not, we have to end up teaching the English language, because of the very simple reason that many of our students, remember, Kolkata University is not an urban university. This is a rural university or a semi-rural university. So therefore, a lot of students who come to our university are either first or second generation learners. And they have not been exposed to English the way in which, for example, I was exposed, because I went to an English medium school. So it became incumbent on me to make English available to them in a way in which I perhaps would not have cared had they come from third generation, fourth generation English learners. So invariably, what I find myself doing, and I'm sure that there are many teachers of English over here who would agree with me, that even when I'm marking my answers, I will find myself marking their grammar too. So I will be, whether I like it or not, I will be correcting their spelling mistakes, I will be correcting their punctuation mistakes, I will be correcting their grammatical mistakes. Although that is not supposed to be my job. My job is supposed to be just to check whether the information that they're supposed to provide in the answer has been put in, whether there is some kind of analysis that is there. Those are supposed to be my focus. But I invariably end up correcting their spelling, their grammar, their punctuation mistakes. Should I be doing that? I have thought about it long and hard, and I felt that this is the final stage of education for most of them. After this, a lot of them are going to stop formal education. They are going to go into teaching. So this is the last chance, absolutely the last chance that I have to suggest to them that perhaps improvements are required in their language. If I don't use this opportunity, they are going to go out into the marketplace, they're going to go out into the workplace knowing that their English is perfect when it isn't. So I felt that this is the last checkpoint, as it were, that they have, and I should use this while I still have the opportunity. And this is where I began to discover something last year, when I initially started to use WhatsApp, and then later on I started to use Google Classroom. I started to correct mistakes even in their WhatsApp messages. And although initially my students found it extremely annoying, because when they wished me good morning, sir, I used to reply to them within inverted commas saying capital GOOD MORING, comma, space, capital SIR, full stop. So the students used to find that extremely annoying. They used to say, sir, I'm only being nice to you. I'm only wishing you good morning. Why should you correct my grammar when I'm wishing you good morning? And even at the risk of making my students hate me, I felt that it is by correcting a simple message like good morning, and by showing them that your message is not complete unless you put a comma after good morning and then put a space after the comma and then write sir. It sounds very boring, but once they learn it, they have learned it for life. So even simple questions that they put to me, so when they ask me a question like, sir, will there be a class tomorrow? And if they ignore to put the question mark, I ask them, is that a question or is it a statement? So then they say, sir, of course it's a question. So I said, okay, if it is a question, something must be wrong with my eyes because I don't see the mark of interrogation. And then they send the message again, this time with the mark of interrogation. And then I say, yes, now that is a question. The answer is, yes, there will be a class tomorrow. So it is through these very small corrections that I do, even in their WhatsApp messages. that I feel that I'm improving their English. Remember that this is not being done formally. This is not being done within the confines of a classroom. This is not a part of their homework. This is not a part of their classwork. But what has happened as a result of the way in which language learning and teaching has metamorphosed since March 2020 is that they are now forced to learn the language 24 hours a day, whether they like it or not. So a lot of my students sometimes think twice before messaging me because they're so terrified that the moment they message me, I'm automatically find 3 mistakes in them. But I tell them, sir, we don't want to message you. So I said, why is that? No, sir, every time we message you, you're going to find 3 mistakes in that. We don't want to message you. So I said, look, would you like it if I let go of your mistakes? Or would you like it if I corrected them so that you don't make those mistakes in the future and so that you don't teach wrong English, wrong punctuation to your students when you start to teach? And then they say, yeah, maybe you have a point. So I said, yes, even if your messages to me have grammatical, spelling, punctuation mistakes, please send me those incorrect messages. Please do. Because if I don't see your incorrect messages, I wouldn't know where I am failing as a teacher. So therefore, this is the way in which I have started using the messaging service, and also something that I have started doing, and I am so grateful to Dr. Dhar for mentioning the very, very crucial point about pronunciation, because in English, that seems to be a real problem. You may think that it isn't a problem because after all, sir, we all have our regional accents. Why shouldn't we talk in our regional accents? No, that is absolutely fine, except when you are being taught scansion. So when you're being taught scansion, when you're being asked to mark on the poem, which syllabus is stressed, which syllable is stressed, which syllable is unstressed, if you don't know the correct pronunciation, your scansion will be wrong. So if your scansion is wrong, then you will simply not be able to understand the music of the poetry. Again, I'm very grateful to Dr. Dhar because he specifically mentioned poetry. Very, very important. We think poetry is a luxury. No. Poetry is not a luxury. Poetry is extremely important because quite apart from poetry being very beautiful and pretty and decorative, it does a very important function. It teaches us how to use language, even spoken language, to create a sense of music. That is extremely crucial. That is what poetry does. It basically creates language, it creates music through the spoken word, no tune. So how is that music produced? It is produced through the arrangement of syllables, stressed syllables, unstressed syllables. If you do not know the pronunciation of those particular words, you will not be able to scan your poems properly. So yes, unfortunately, there is something called received pronunciation. And yes, unfortunately, whether we like it or not, we have to know it. Otherwise, we will not be able to understand how poetry functions. So this is as far as the technical side of it is concerned. But of course, this is a seminar that has been organized also by the humanities. So therefore, let me talk a little bit about the way in which we should perhaps be a little bit more careful and we should be a little bit more conscious about the way in which humanities functions. Because you see, education is not just about learning a skill. Of course, we are going to teach skills, but skills can be taught, in engineering departments. They learn skills. Skills can be taught in science department. They are taught skills. So how are we, those of us who are in the humanities, how are we any different from those who are in the science department, in the technology department, in the engineering department? We are different because there is something else that we add to the education, which is not necessary for the other disciplines. We bring the heart, we bring morals, we bring ethics, we bring a sense of democracy, we bring a sense of identity. So therefore, what we also teach our students and what we try to learn through our teaching and learning is that learning English literature is not just about learning how many novels Dickens has written or how many plays Shakespeare wrote. That is just information. We also need to, we are required to understand where is the heart behind it, where is the soul behind it. It has to speak to us. You know, I remember one of my aunts. Unfortunately, she has long since ceased teaching, but once upon a time she used to teach at a college, and she was this very, very erudite, very knowledgeable, very young, enthusiastic teacher. And she was given the job of teaching war poetry. So she had to teach poets like Siegfried Sassoon, Wilfred Owen, Rupert Brooke. She went into the class and she said, you know, I am not going to tell you about the history of war poetry. That you can read from any English literature book. You know, you've got your Edward Albert, you've got your David Datchess. You're going to get your history from there. What I will simply do is I'm going to read out those poems the way in which you have perhaps not ever heard them being read out. And when she read out, she was just completely concentrating on the reading. So she was not looking at the class. But once she finished reading and when she looked up from her book, she saw the entire class had tears streaming down their face. That is teaching. She didn't do anything. She simply read it out. But did she just read it out? No, she read it out correctly. She read it out in a way where the scansion was right, where the pronunciation was right. But much more than that, she brought feeling into it. You have this phrase, con brio, which means with spirit. She brought spirit to her reading, which is why she could reduce an entire class of college students. Remember, college students are very difficult to make them cry. They'll only cry, they won't even cry if you give them bad grades. They're going to threaten to kill you, but they won't cry. And here you have an entire class of cynical college students who were sitting there, tears streaming down their face. So what should we do as teachers and students of humanities? We should absolutely remember that what really happens in the case of humanities teaching is something that in French is called éducation sentimentale, which basically means sentimental education. But when you talk about sentimental education, it isn't about saying, you know, I'm going to teach you how to cry. No, no, no. It is basically about inculcating a sensibility, which is a very 18th century idea, but sensibility. So therefore, we should be compassionate. We should be understanding. Literature is ultimately about love. Literature is about love, which is why you have so much love poetry. So what we really should be doing is we should not forget that literature is ultimately about making the world more democratic. That's what it is. And how do we make it democratic? There are other disciplines that are certainly making the world more democratic. Literature does not have the sole monopoly of making the world democratic. Every discipline does that. Political science does that, history does that, philosophy certainly does that. So what is unique about literature? Okay, so what is unique about literature is something that I have very frequently asked my students. So I have told them, excuse me, how much time do I have? I am.
Yes,
You can continue, sir.
No. I'm not going to eat into anybody else's time. So according to the schedule, when should I stop? 12.
Yes.
12. Okay,
Yes, sir.
12. Okay, that's fine. So very often I have asked my students, what are you doing in the literature department? Why are you here? And they say, we are here to study literature. Okay, what is literature? And then invariably, I'm going to get the usual responses. Literature is a reflection of life. It helps us to understand society. And I say, name me one discipline that isn't about life. Name me one discipline that isn't about society. Name me one discipline that isn't concerned with the world. And they say, yeah, well, that is true. So I said, well, if all disciplines are engaged in improving the quality of life, please tell me, how is literature different? And then they say, sir, it is about psychology. So I said, you've got the psychology department to do that. Sir, it is about understanding society. So I said, exactly, you've got the sociology department to do that. Sir, it is about how we have become who we are. Yeah, you've got a history department to do that. So then they say, sir, in that case, we don't know. We don't know. We don't know why we are here. So I said, okay, well, let me tell you why you're here. You are here because this is what literature is. Literature is a constantly doomed struggle to increase the prison house of language in which we all have to live. That, my dear students, is what literature is. So let me repeat it. Literature is a constantly doomed, very, very important word, doomed. So I'm not being celebratory. Literature is a constantly doomed struggle to increase the prison house of language in which we all have to live. So they say, sir, but language as a prison. I said, yes, my dear, language as a prison. Haven't you ever come across instances in your life where you said, you know, I am so happy that I don't have the words to express it? Haven't you ever come across a position, an event in your life where you say, I am so disappointed, I don't have the words to express it? Haven't you come across an incident in your life where you say, I'm so sad, I don't have language enough to express it? What do those incidents mean? What they mean is that language is limited. Language is limited. Language certainly helps us to communicate with each other, and all other disciplines are fine with language. All other disciplines are fine with language. In science disciplines, in social sciences, there will be new words that will be coined whenever the need is felt that perhaps the language is inadequate. Literature, however, is a slightly different discipline. Literature does not always depend on coining new words. Of course, there have been authors who have coined new words. I can think of Gerard Manley Hopkins, yes, in stress, in scape. Of course, there will certainly be poets who are going to invent new words. No, but that is not what literature is about. So what is literature about? Literature is basically about telling us that you should be able to expand, very important verb, expand the meaning of words. So every time we are reading literature, this is what we have to keep in mind. Is the author expanding the language? That is the one question. Not whether the author is making me cry, not whether the author is making me laugh. Of course, you are going to think about those too, but that is not the job of the author. There is a difference between a novelist and a stand-up comedian. There is a difference between a novelist and a tragic actress. The difference is this, that a stand-up comedian will very often make you laugh in a way in which you are used to laughing. A tragic actress is going to make you cry in the way in which you are used to cry. But what does the literature do? The literature forces you to look at a word in which you are not used to seeing it. That is what literature is. So literature, therefore, is about expanding the prison house of language in which we all have to live. But in my definition of literature, why did I then put in the word doomed? Because doomed is not a very nice word. Doom means despair. Doom means the end. Doom means failure. So why did I put doomed into my definition of what is literature? Well, this is why. Because there is no end to how much innovation you can make in literature. So every single successful author that has ever existed in the world, Every person who has won the Nobel Prize for Literature, every author that has won the Booker Prize, they have all failed. Oh my God, that's a terrible thing to say. Why did I say they have all failed? They have all failed because that is what we humans are good at. As one of my favorite writers, Samuel Beckett, had said, try, fail, try again, fail better. So what these authors have taught us is how to fail better. Rabindranath Tagore failed greatly. Shakespeare failed greatly. Dickens, Tolstoy, they failed greatly. Jane Austen, Virginia Woolf, they all failed greatly. So just because they fail, should we stop reading them? No, no, no. The point is that we should look at their failure and then try to build on that. Does that mean I'm going to stop producing literature? No, no, no. I'm sure my novel, The Scholar, is a huge failure. I'll be the first one to say that. But there have to be these failures so that there can be other writers who can come after them and fail better. So we should try to understand not only where the authors have succeeded, but also we should be careful that this is the way in which literature progresses. Failure is important. If we don't fail, you don't grow. Only dead people don't fail. Only dead people don't fail. So if you don't want to fail, die. But if you want to be alive, be prepared to fail. Try, fail better. And also, I think what postmodernists have done is that they have radically changed the way in which we look at literature. Because, or indeed the way in which we look at humanities. Because if you look at the history of humanities, you will find that humanities, when it actually began in Greco-Roman times, in Greek times, it was basically about acquiring certain skills. That was broadly what it was, acquiring of skills. And then what happens during the Renaissance, that is to say 16th century, 15th century, in addition to the acquiring of skills, it also becomes about acquiring of knowledge, about cultivating yourself, about knowing things that are not necessarily, that don't necessarily have a market value. Yeah. So then you acquire knowledge not because it will give you a better job, but because knowledge in itself is of value. It need not translate into the money that you're earning. So that was the major shift that happened during the Renaissance. But in our own times, the study of humanities has undergone another very, very major shift. It has become much more democratic. So therefore, how do I say that it has become more democratic? Well, if you compare the MA syllabus of what used to be taught at various universities 50 years ago to the way in which the MA syllabus is taught today, it is going to become very clear to you how democratic we have become. 50 years ago, we would not be studying post-colonial literature. 50 years ago, we would not be studying women's writing. 50 years ago, we would not be having gender studies. 50 years ago, we would not be having disability studies. But we have got all of these disciplines. We wouldn't have been having Dalit studies. So therefore, we have started to make the syllabus more and more inclusive. It is this inclusivity which I think is a major contribution that postmodernists have done to the study of literature. We are talking about innovation. This is innovation. This is the way in which we have learned to embrace more, exclude less. So what we really have to start doing is we have to start respecting, not just respecting, that's a terrible word, scratch that. We have to start celebrating difference. Don't respect, celebrate. So therefore, celebration of difference becomes very, very important. Today, when we design our courses, we try to make it as inclusive as possible. We try to include gender diversity. Yes, we try to include religious diversity, communal diversity. ethnic diversity, definitely national diversity. So therefore, diversity becomes a very, very important deciding factor when we are actually innovating in our syllabus. There are many, many universities where syllabuses don't change over many years. But then I am much more excited by those universities where syllabus is under scrutiny all the time. So that the teachers and the board of studies are constantly vigilant lest something becomes outdated. So then you constantly have to say, and this is important, we owe it to our students, because our students are going to want to know about the new vistas of knowledge that are opening up in front of us. I can tell you that till about 5 or 6 years ago, there is a certain university in West Bengal that did not have any representation of cultural studies. And now they are teaching the comics of Tintin. Right? So therefore, which is a part of the popular culture. Yesterday, I was at a meeting at our board of studies, and there was possibility that we might be able to offer another compulsory course. And the moment our head of the department said that we can offer a compulsory course, my first interjection was that please can we have a course in popular culture. This is something that I thought was extremely necessary. Of course, I have tried to include popular culture in my gender studies paper, where I have started including queer cinema, where I've started including movies. There was some opposition, by the way, but the majority of the members supported it. So now in my gender studies paper, I can teach cinema too. But of course, the way in which I teach cinema in my gender studies class is different from the way in which cinema is taught in a special paper on cinema. You see, because in that special paper on cinema, cinema is taught as a text that you should be able to understand for the technicalities of filmmaking. Whereas when I am teaching cinema in my gender studies class, I am teaching cinema as a political text. I am teaching cinema as a text that may or may not oppose patriarchy, may or may not oppose heteronormativity. How are we going to read cinema through the lens of feminism, through the lens of queer theory? So therefore, these are innovations. So what we really need to try and understand is that innovations need not only come through the way in which we are adapting to new technology. Of course, that is going to be a part of it. But let us not dazzle our students with technological innovations. Let us not show our students, look how easily I can use a PowerPoint. You know, very often when I'm asked to speak at a webinar or at a seminar, as indeed was the case today, I was asked if I have a PPT. I almost never use a PPT because I tell my listeners, I am PowerPoint enough. So therefore, I think that I am trying to make some powerful points without using PowerPoint. So therefore, what I really want, it was Dr. Nima who very kindly asked me if I had a PowerPoint. Dr. Nima is there. So what I really want to impress on all of us as I come to the end of my talk is that let us innovate, let us try and think of new ways to approach the students as far as technology is concerned, but let us never lose sight of what we are here to do. We are here to make the world more democratic. We are here to celebrate difference. We are also there to encourage as much diversity. And basically, it is about the growth of the heart, isn't it? So therefore, I think the bigger our hearts are, the better students of humanities we are. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, sir. And it was really a very well experience to listen to you. Thank you so much for sharing the dynamic definition of literature. I had never heard before it. Thank you so much for sharing 3 words success mantra, that is FAIN, I guess, yes, I listened to it. Try, fail, and better. Thank you so much for your words, sir. Now, here we come to the end of our session, and I request Head Humanities Department, Dr. Rupa Shinde, to propose words of thanks. Ma'am?
Thank you is such a prayer that cannot be seen or touched. It must be felt by heart. Honorable Chief Guest, Professor Niladri R. Chatterjee, Professor, Department of English, Kalyan University, West Bengal. Honorable Vice Chancellor, Shri Vaishnav Vidyapith Vishwavidyalaya, Indore, Dr. Upinder Dhar, Coordinator, Shri Vaishnav Institute of Social Sciences, Humanities and Arts, and Conference Advisor, SAHITYAVITHI 2021, Dr. Santosh Dhar, esteemed chairperson of the session, Dr. Shivaji Sarkar, Mumbai University, convener, SAHITYAVITHI 2021, Professor Pamela Nima, participants, HOIs, HODs, faculty members, and dear students. I feel honored and privileged to get the opportunity to propose words of thanks on this special occasion. At the outset, I would like to take this opportunity to place on record our hearty thanks to our Honorable Chief Guest, Professor Niladri R. Chatterjee, for kindly accepting our invitation and gracing the inaugural function. Thank you, sir. On behalf of the organizing committee, I convey my deep regards to our Honorable Vice Chancellor, Dr. Upinder Dhar, for his constant motivation and guidance. We will ever remain grateful to you. Today, my words are not enough to express the gratitude to Conference Advisor SAHITYAVITHI 2021, Dr. Santosh Dhar, for a continuous guidance, support, and active involvement to make this conference a reality. Thank you, ma'am. I would also like to take this opportunity to welcome and thank Dr. Shivaji Sarkar for accepting our invitation and sparing his time for us. I'm very much thankful to the entire organizing committee for their active involvement in the completion of tasks beyond their comfort zones. My sincere thanks to Dr. Anand Rajawat for providing us all the technical support. I also take this opportunity to thank the technical staff members for providing their persistent support as and when required. Thanks to all the people who helped us either directly or indirectly to make this conference happen. My grateful thanks to all the delegates who have contributed their research papers for the conference. Last but not the least, I would like to thank our informed audience. Without whose participation and involvement, no such event is complete. Thank you once again and happy learning.
Thank you so much, Rupa ma'am. Now I request all of you to rise for national anthem.
जनगण मन अधिनायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता पंजाब सिंध गुजरात मराठा द्राविड उत्कल बंगा विंध्य हिमाचल यमुना गंगा उच्चल जलधि तरंगा तव शुभ नामे जागे तव शुभ आशीष मांगे गाहे तव जय गाथा जन गण मंगलदायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता जय हे जय हे जय हे जय 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 हे
Thank you so much. And now I request all the panelists to turn on your video so that we can take a snapshot. Shadab sir. Okay, thank you so much, everyone. And I request all the paper presenters to join us with a link posted on your WhatsApp group, and we have mailed you all. We have mailed it to you also. Okay, thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Niladri, sir.